So Sindhu River, Sindhu name, hydronym Sindhu can be 90% applied to the Indus River, but maybe 10%, 5% applied to some other river. Apaka or Apaya, 90% applied to the Haryana River. Exactly the river that flows in the middle of the Kurukshetra is the Apaka, proper Apaka river or Apaya. So that is just one reference. One time it is referred to Ganga. Just one time it is referred to Chanab River, Chandrabhaga River. But only in the Mahabharata, not in Rigveda. Only in Mahabharata. In the Rigveda, Apaya means only the Kurukshetra River, the central river of Kurukshetra, which was acting as a channel of Saraswati and later become a tributary of Saraswati because of the river dynamics. So that Apaya River, in Rigveda, there is no confusion. It is perfectly 100% mentioned as the Kurukshetra, the Varaprithviya River in the early Rigvedic mandalas. But in the subsequent literature, like in the Mahabharata, the term Apaka, it's not also very popular. Very rarely, one-time use of Apaka for Ganga, one-time use of Apaka for Chandrabhaga. Similarly, Sindhu River, of course, within the Rigveda itself, 90% it is used for the Indus River. One or two occurrences of the river name for Saraswati, etc. And similarly, the other names I mentioned. So this is about the just last few points about the river name, river hydrological names, and the naming of the rivers. So I share it because of this name Vaji. So of course Vaji means horse. Vaji is a synonym of Ashwa. So Ashwamedha is also called Vajimedha because Ashwa, Vaji, both are referring to horses. And Vajinavadi is a river which is rich in horses. And this is a Sindhu breed of horses that is coming from this particular portion. And Silimavati is the Suru river. And the Suru is the current name of the river. That is the Silimavati. And another is Urnavati. That is Zanskar river. And of course, there are certain terminology. Urnavati means, again, just like Parushni's case situation. Here there is a sheep cultivation and the woolen clothes, woolen hairs of sheep, everything is available here. So it is also the terminology is representing. This is a very cold place. Sheep cultivation is in this region. And Urnavati represent that this region is rich in woolen, wool and woolen clothes also. And surprisingly, today, this entire Urnavati region, this Urnavati or Sanskar river is famous for its woolen clothes. There are markets, wool markets, where you can see all kinds of very high quality woolen clothes you can obtain from the Urnavati. And Silimavati is like Silima. Actually, this is another question because it is a kind of a plant, Silima. And there are just like Soma have Soma plant is identified by multiple plants. There are research going on about identifying the Soma plant, etc. Of course, more or less identified as Ephedra, etc. But still research going on and the ingredients that is added into the Soma preparation. Similarly, Silima is another kind of a plant which is growing in the high Himalayan mountains. And Silimavati means the river which is rich in the Silima kind of plants. And which is the Silima plant, that is again a matter of research which is going on. And I have identified it as a Suru river. And based on that, this particular research about the Silimavati can be focused on this particular river. And we can correctly identify which is the exact plant that is responsible for the name Silima, etc. And of course, then I need to tell another theory because whatever identification I have mentioned is assuming that Urnavati and Silimavati are two distinct rivers and Vajinavati is the synonym of Sindhu river. Because why I'm saying there are some other researchers who say that all the three are synonymous to Sindhu river. But then there is a problem for that. So that is why I didn't go with that alternate theory. If you consider Urnavati and Silimavati also synonymous to the Sindhu river, then the initial mention about 21 rivers, because there is a mention in the Rigveda, again in 10th mandala about 21 rivers. And if you consider these two rivers as synonymous to Sindhu, then the number of rivers count reduced to 19 rivers. So there is an anomaly there. So that is the reason why I cannot go with that theory that all the three are synonymous to Sindhu. Because Vajinavadi, we can understand it is synonymous to Sindhu because there is at least one reference which tells that Vajinavadi is Sindhu. But Urnavati and Silamavati are mentioned only once, single time reference nouns in the Rigveda. So there is no way we can conclude that they are another names another river name of Sindhu river itself. And there is no reason why anybody will give three synonym of the same river into the Nadi Sukta for no reason. Second, if you also include Urnavati and Silamavati based according to that alternate theory, if you include the river names Urnavati and Silamavati as synonymous to Sindhu river, the river count drops from 21 to 19. Because of these two reasons, I considered these two rivers as unique existing rivers and identified it with Suru and Sanskar, two tributaries of the Sindhu river. And there is another geographical encoding happened. There in the earlier verse, the other tributaries of Sindhu are mentioned: Tripsama, Shushartu, Svetya, etc. So if you look at all the other rivers mentioned separately, they are the right-hand tributaries of Sindhu, or we can say northern tributaries of Sindhu. Tripsama is to the north of Sindhu. Shushartu is to the north of Sindhu. Shvetya is to the north of Sindhu. So the geographer is also encoding another information that this set of rivers are northern tributaries, and the Silimavati and Urnavati are the southern tributaries. And Vajinavati is the name of Sindhu, which is flowing in between them. Just like Rasa, I also mentioned along with these other two rivers, Tritsama, Shushartu, Rasa, Svetya. Rasa is also mentioned in between, whereas Rasa is a synonymous to Sindhu river itself. That is because wherever this rivers Tritsama, Shushartu, and Svetya joins, the name of the river Sindhu is Rasa. That is the reason why Rasa is mentioned in that. When these three rivers are mentioned separately, Tritsama, Shushartu, Rasa, Shvetya, like that. Wherein Rasa is another name of Sindhu, but so total number of tributaries is Tritsama, Shushartu, and Shvetya, or Shetayavari, the alternate name of it. And that region, the river name of Sindhu is also known as Rasa, like that. From the point onwards, the Sindhu is on the mountains. That is, from around this point onwards, the river name is Rasa. And here, wherever the Silimavati and Urnavati is joining, this is known as Vajinavati, because this is the region of Sindhu where you have seen plenty of horses of excellent quality. So this is a reason why this particular part, the river is mentioned as Vajinavati. So Vajinavati basically meaning rich in Vaji. Vaji means horses. So the river rich in horses, that name is applied to Sindhu in this particular region, where the region is famous for horses. And slightly later in this course, the river is known as Rasa. The Sindhu river is known as Rasa. So the Rasa part of the Sindhu, these three upper tributaries, northern tributaries like Tritsama, Shushartu, and Svetya joins in the Rasa part of the river. And in the Vajinavati part of the river, you have Silimavati and Urnavati joining from the south. Two southern tributaries mentioned separately, and northern tributaries mentioned in separately. So that is how the geographical encoding has happened in the 10th Mandala, 75th Sukta. That is how it is occurring actually. So that concludes today's session. With now, if you look at how many rivers we mentioned, including Vajinavati, Urnavati, Silimavati, and we have mentioned Vitasta and Marupitha. So total unique rivers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Of course, Vajinavati being the same river as Sindhu, so I am not counting it. So 4 rivers we have seen today. And with this 4 rivers, we have concluded all the Ṛgvedic rivers. The entire rivers mentioned in the Ṛgveda we have concluding by this today's session. And what remains is Samudra, that is the ocean. So that we will take tomorrow. There is a big chapter on Samudra, and it is very interesting because Samudra is mentioned more than the number of times Saraswati is mentioned. And this part is not recognized. This part is completely ignored by the Aryan invasion theorists because it doesn't suit their geography. Because they are trying to say that Rigveda is authored in Afghanistan or Central Asia, etc., where there is no Samudra. And this is a big disappointment for them, where they unsuccessfully tried to say that Saraswati is in Afghanistan, or Rigveda is authored in Afghanistan, etc. This particular thing, because Afghanistan is a landlocked country, there are no oceans there. Some people say, okay, this is Central Asia, so this Caspian Sea may be the sea referred, etc. But the fact that the Samudra is mentioned in the Rigveda many times more than the river Saraswati itself, indicate that it is a proper Samudra, proper ocean. And the proper ocean is found only in India, like in Indian territory. And this is also the Samudra, the mention of Samudra is also another important data point that clinches that our geography is correct. Saraswati is the Haryana river, which is flowing into Samudra. The next big river, Sindhu, is again flowing into Samudra. And which Samudra it is? It is the Gujarat, the ocean around Gujarat. That is also called Dakshina Samudra, etc. In the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, that is called the Dakshina Samudra. So that Samudra is what is referred in the Rigveda, not any Caspian Sea or any other sea. It is the Arabian Sea that is mentioned as Samudra. Of course, the right terminology is the sea around Gujarat. And that is where around Gujarat and Karachi and the Sindh region, that is the ocean that is mentioned as Samudra. We will discuss it in the next chapter. So I'm concluding it, and then we can look for questions.